Wednesday, a couple time. Hey, we're going to start talking about the fruit of the Spirit as it relates to our marriages from Galatians 5. Now, Paul talks earlier in the chapter in Galatians 5, in verse 16, he says that we should walk by the Spirit and we won't gratify the desires of the flesh. And so he's saying the Spirit, these are the things that come from God. These are the qualities and the virtues that the Spirit produces in our lives once we become Christians, as opposed to the stuff that's in us from birth, our sinful nature in the flesh. And then what he does is he gets specific about some of those things. And in verse 22, he gets in there and starts talking about the fruit of the Spirit in our lives. And we're going to look at these things and apply them specifically to our marriages.
So we pick up at verse 22, and it says, the fruit of the Spirit is love, which we've talked quite a bit about love in the last few weeks. So we're done with love, but we're going to move on to joy. And we're going to look at what joy means. So let's first define it. And the way that's defined here today is a deep sense of happiness and hope that comes from God, no matter what's happening in life. So think about your marriage. Think about your relationship, husbands and wives. In general, do you think people would look at you and say, they seem to have joy in their marriage? They laugh, they enjoy each other's company. Or would people walk in your home and maybe think, boy, marriage is awfully heavy? Would your kids look at the way you relate to one another and say, I don't know, maybe marriage isn't in my future because mom and dad don't seem to enjoy it very much? Now, obviously, we're not talking just about the putting on a happy face and faking it. We recognize that a lot of things happen in marriage and in life that's difficult. So your question might be, well, how in the world do you find joy in difficult circumstances? And the way we want to look at that is first look to the future. And what we mean by that is let's not ever forget that even though this world brings lots of bad stuff, whether it's job loss or sick children or just difficult things that happen in life, we can easily lose hope if that's all we're looking at. So when we look to the future, what we mean is for Brian and I, in those difficult times in our marriage, what we have to be reminded of is our hope is in Christ. The victory's already been won for us, that no matter what happens in this world, where we're going for eternity is a better place. So for you guys in your marriage, pray together. Think about that. Be reminded of the fact that if you are believers, that your hope and your joy is most fulfilled in your relationship with God. The other thing that's helpful is also remember the past. Go back and reflect on what were the things that we were attracted to in one another before we got married. What are the things we used to do together that brought us joy? And think about those things. Remember those things. Talk about those things together. And in combination of remembering and putting things into perspective of the things that you're going to deal with in this world, that's not the end of the story, thank the Lord. And also being reminded of what brought you guys together in the first place. I think you can get to a place of finding new joy in your relationship. Take some time to discuss these few questions that we have here of joyful times in your marriage and reflect on some things that you can decide together. What do we need to start doing to bring back some of that joy that maybe has been lost? And I promise you, it'll be worth the effort to bring joy back into your marriage, because in loving and finding joy in one another, you're ultimately honoring God.